Hey guys, welcome back to another video at Jensen's Reptiles. Today is going to be a reptile room tour. Loads of you have asked for this video, so I thought I may as well make one for you so you can see all of the animals in one go. Now, I just wanted to preface this video by saying that a lot of the enclosures are currently not permanent enclosures. I have custom enclosures in the works. In about 3 months' time, we'll be kicking off some huge changes here. I will go through everything one by one, but I'm also going to point out when an enclosure isn't a permanent enclosure and what needs to change, just so you guys know. So I'm going to start today by showing you Yoshi. Yoshi is my 11-year-old bearded dragon. You can see here he's just hunting for some locusts at the moment, one of his favourite foods. Yoshi is in a 4-foot Viv Exotic Reptile home terrarium. It's one of the older style terrariums that they do. You can see the ventilation panels do not exist along the back. All of the ventilation is on the front. Yoshi has a sand soil mix for substrate, which is great. You can see it's nice and loose, so it's great for digging. He's got some branches. He's got his sandstone slabs over there, which retain heat really nicely underneath his basking spot. So he's got his 2 spots there, his ceramic for nighttime temperatures, and his UV light along the back there. So that is Yoshi's setup. This for him is not a permanent enclosure. So as I was saying, a lot of the animals here need an upgrade. For a bearded dragon, 4 foot is an okay size enclosure to start with, but something that I've learned with keeping Yoshi is that getting that heat gradient for an adult dragon is quite difficult. So actually I'm looking to double the size of his enclosure. So aiming for an 8-foot enclosure, it will have to be custom built because nobody currently makes enclosures that size as standard, which is a little bit frustrating. But yeah, so that's what he'll be in this year, which will be great. I can use this enclosure for one of the other animals. But yeah, to give him that light gradient and the heat gradient, definitely a bigger enclosure. So if you are planning on getting a beardie, a 4 foot is fine for a smaller guy, but I would definitely recommend at least a 6-foot enclosure for an adult beardie. As you can see, as big as this enclosure is, Yoshi's quite big as well, and from the tip of his nose right down to his tail, he is more than half the length of this enclosure, so I definitely want to be giving him some more space. Next up is Luna. Luna is my high yellow leopard gecko. She is 2.5 years old, and she lives in this 4-foot Viv Exotic terrarium. It's the same length as Yoshi's, but it's actually a little bit higher because it's one of the newer models, which is great for leopard geckos because when you're providing them with UV, you want to make sure that there's a good distance from the UV bulb itself. So Luna's is actually up at the top there. She's also got her little basking lamp over here. Now, while she doesn't typically bask during the day, this heats all of the ground area here, so later when she comes out, all of this retains the heat and it's still nice and warm. So she likes to come and sit over here and then in the evening, which is lovely to see. Luna has the same substrate as Yoshi, but she's also got a little bit of excavated clay in here as well. So you see around here and the little ridges, anywhere that it's packed in the edges, that's the excavated clay, which helps to keep everything in place. And then everything else is filled in with either sandstone slabs, little bits of cork bark, and then the sand soil mix for the substrate. She's got some succulents in here and at the back there, and then some dead grasses just to give it that desert feel. Her water bowl over there, and then I'll take you over to the other side to see her hide. It is daytime at the moment, so Luna is sleeping, so you may not get a full glimpse of her. But with any of the animals here, if you want to see more of them, they all have individual videos on my channel, so do feel free to go check them out. If there are any in particular that you do have questions about, just let me know and I'll get you some more information. Next up, we've got Banzai and Shenzi, my little viper geckos. Same as Luna, they are sleeping at the moment, so I'll try to get some footage of them this evening when they come out. But in the meantime, I'll show you their tank so you can see it in the light. So, same as Luna and Yoshi, they have the sand soil mix for substrate. It retains heat really nicely and it's also great for the plants. They've got a little dead grass over here for that desert feel, same as Luna, and then some succulents in one corner, the back corner, and in the middle there. So just waiting for these to grow in a little bit so they bush out and provide a bit more cover for the geckos. But they've also got the rock here to climb on and hide behind, which they like to sit and bask on towards the afternoon. And then their little hide and feeding bowl eggs over here, which have got some mealworms in at the moment, and a little rock cave den down there which they can climb down into. Now this tank is bioactive, so the cleanup crew resides inside this skull, which is filled out with a little bit of mulch, some dead leaves, and it's sprayed down with water, so there's a little humid area for the cleanup crew. But in general, it's an arid enclosure, same as the other two that you've seen just now, and it's got that same kind of desert feel to it. Now, whilst Luna's enclosure is permanent for her, that will be the biggest enclosure I'll put her in, especially for the near future. I am intending to move these guys into a larger enclosure this year. So when everyone moves up a size, these guys will move from this 2-foot Viv Exotic, which is a fairly decent size for them at the moment, seeing as they are quite small, to a 3-foot Viv Exotic, which I will show you a bit later on. So I'm aiming for these guys to have a bit more space and then really go all out on how the enclosure is decorated, going up the walls as well, to make use of that 3D space. But currently, as you can see, they've got a nice little desert setup in here. Again, I'll try and get some footage of them later on, and hopefully they come out for me and they're not too camera shy today. Moving on to my last but definitely not least lizard in the collection here. This is my crested gecko enclosure. So this enclosure houses Jester, who you can just see in his bromeliad there at the moment. Jester is just over a year old. He's having a little drink off the leaves at the moment. Oh, that's sweet. He's growing really nicely in this tank. Anyone that's been watching the videos for a while will know that when I got Jester as a tiny baby, he went straight into this enclosure, which a lot of people said was too big for him. But as you know, that's a bit of a silly thing to assume. In the wild, these geckos have all the space in the world really, and they have no difficulties whatsoever. So this enclosure is a 90 by 45 by 45 Exoterra. It's got a good amount of height on it, but it's not very wide and it's not very deep. So we're planning on moving Jester into an enclosure double this size next year, which will be wonderful for him. So it will be 90 high and also 90 wide. I believe it's still 45 centimeters deep, but we're going to make brilliant use of that space. So it'll be this enclosure doubled, which will be great fun for him. Jester is a Harlequin crested gecko. He's currently trying to sleep, but I just sprayed his tank down, so he's come out for a little bit of water. He likes to hang out in his bromeliad up here quite a lot. He likes to try and believe that he still fits in those leaves there, but as you can see, he's actually hanging out of it. He's got his feeding ledge over here with fresh water and crested gecko diet. He has a variety of different fruit mixes that he likes, so we mix that up for him. He's got a little ledge up there, a little burrow to crawl down, and another little burrow to crawl down there, which leads to a little window, which is just around the back there. I don't think you can actually see it, I do apologise. He's got a pothos plant, which is currently bushing out here at the top, which will be nice. He'll have a bit more cover, and then a little fern down here, so a little bit of ground cover as well. Jester has a UV light over on this side, and then the jungle dawn over here, which helps the plant growth. And then we have a couple of artificial plants up at the top, just to help with the greenery so it's not too bare. I have a video on my channel showing how this enclosure was put together and the custom backing that was made. It was the first custom backing that I did, and next time I'm definitely going to do things a little bit differently, because as you can see, bits are coming off. That was more due to the speed of this being done rather than any issues with the technique, but there are definitely things that I'd like to do differently next time. So when he gets his new enclosure, that'll be a really exciting one to watch, because we'll see a lot of new things being done there. So that is my lovely little crested gecko. Now we'll move on to the amphibians. I know it's the reptile room, but I've got to show these guys. Moving swiftly on to amphibians, here are my 3 American tree frogs. There we go, 1, 2, 3. and this is their current enclosure. As you can see, this enclosure is actually on the small side for them, so when Jester gets his upgrade to the 90 wide, they'll be moving into his 90 by 45 by 45. This current tank is an Exoterra 30 by 30 by 45. Whilst these frogs aren't insanely active, they do move around quite a lot at night time, so I'd like to provide them with that extra space to do so. After that, I'm not quite sure what this tank will be used for, but I definitely want to make sure these guys have more space. But you can see for a green tree frog, they are a variety of different colours, and they will also change colour to match their environment. So definitely the chameleon of the frog world, so to speak. But you can see this one in the middle here has got splotches of brown coming through. That's just since I've put him on this brown log here, and the one at the bottom is the same. This one up at the top is usually that kind of speckled colour, but when the plants really growing a lot more and it's a lot more green in here, they go this vibrant bright green, which is really cool. These frogs have got a natural light, sorry for the flash in there, my camera's struggling to pick it up, a natural light, a UV light and a halogen spot to provide them with a nice warm basking spot. So that is my little American green tree frogs. Next up is my African clawed frogs. Now this enclosure definitely needs a lot of work. I've pretty much just taken out all of the plants that were in here because I was having so many issues with the algae. So I'm going to look into something different to see what else I can do to make these frogs have a really lovely, beautiful home. They are river dwellers and they are considered a pest in most countries, but I really want to provide them with a beautiful space. So I have 3 frogs in here at the moment. I have my 2 females, so that's one of the females at the back, that larger one. I have a little male right there at the front, and then my other female is over there at the back. So all of these white spots here are actually from the snails. So you can see one of them just below the female there on the rock. They are meant to help with the algae, but actually they clean the glass a little bit, but they mainly just lay eggs everywhere, which are an absolute pain to get off. So I'm quite looking forward to doing a huge revamp on this tank. But one of the reasons I like to do these reptile room videos is to show you guys what things look like before and then what I've changed them to look like after. So whilst everything may not be in a perfect state, it's also nice for me to keep a record of how things have changed. So this tank is far from ideal, but it's providing the frogs with a good amount of space. They're very happy and healthy. They eat their food beautifully. They have a wonderful feeding response. But the enclosure itself is not beautiful. So that's what I'm going to be working on this year a lot, making sure the tanks are great sizes and really, really nice for the animals. The last of my amphibians is my little baby Pac-Man frog, who resides in this 30 by 30 by 30 Exoterra cube. He has a double canopy at the moment, one with a jungle dawn light, one with a nice little UV, which provides him with his heat as well. So Namco likes to bury himself in whatever spot he can find, so you can see all these patches of exposed earth is where he's buried himself. And he's currently hanging out down at the back there. So I think you can just about see him. I know it's really bright, so I do apologise. I'm going to try and tempt him out with a little bit of food so you can get a better view of him. But I have a video about his full enclosure as well, so if you want to go check it out, then do go have a look. But I'll try to tempt him out so you can see him a bit better. There we go, he's just popped out a tiny bit to grab that locust, but he seems to be a little shy of me filming him. So I'm just going to step back a little bit. He's got the locust kind of half in his mouth, half out. Oh, there it is there. Are you going to go for it, buddy? Let me just reposition that locust and see if he goes for it. Probably going to go for the tongs instead. Come on, Namco. There we go. Oh, typical, had to be out of focus. I think that's the most we're going to see of him today. He tends to come out a bit more in the evening, but in the day he likes to burrow down. So seeing as this is a reptile room, I'm going to go very swiftly through my invertebrates. I know a lot of you guys are really interested in them. Annoyingly, they're really hard to see during the day, so I'm just going to show you their setups, and then if you want any more information, either go check out their other videos or let me know in the comments and I will try to get some more footage for you. So here is the enclosure for my Mexican red-kneed tarantula. This is an Exoterra habisphere. It's filled out with a sand soil mix for substrate and a little bit of excavated clay, and she has a burrow down there which she's currently hiding in. You can just about see the back end of her and a couple of her legs there. She's got her little water bowl and she's got her hides. As you can see, the substrate is built up pretty high in this, so she hasn't got a huge amount of climbing space, which is always beneficial for terrestrial spiders just in case they ever take a tumble. They are super fragile, so we want to be careful of anything like that. As I said, if you've got any questions about the inverts in particular, let me know, but I'm about to race through the next ones so you can see their setups at least. This is where my little jumping spider Presley resides. It is a nano Exoterra. It's about, I think it's about 30 centimeters high, or maybe 25 centimeters high, 20 centimeters wide, and it's just a single door. But for a little jumping spider, absolutely perfect. So he's got a little branch in here, some foliage for cover, and a cocoa fiber substrate which is easy just to dampen down to make sure that the humidity stays good in here. They don't need it too humid, but definitely a little bit of humidity, and a nice spray down every day for little water droplets to go drink as well. In typical invert fashion, he is hiding at that little web over at the back there. I'm not sure if my camera's going to focus on it. It's that out of focus blob of web over at the back basically. That's where he hangs out during the day, and then he'll come out for a little stroll towards the evening, and then spend most of the night sitting out. So that is his setup. Moving on to my arboreal tarantula. This is the home of Calypso, my Antilles pink toe, or versicolor carabiner, something like that. Everything changed recently, so I can't quite remember what things are. But she tends to hide behind that log, so again, for filming, really useful. Thank you, Calypso. So she has this nice arboreal home. This is a 30 by 30 by 45. She's got her little water bowl down here, her bromeliad, which she also likes to drink out of. The flowers in all of my bromeliads have died recently. They will kind of send off their pups and then that's it. So we've just got nice green bromeliads rather than the splashes of colour. But a little bit of climbing ivy over at the back there, and some driftwood to hide on and climb behind. I'm hoping that when she grows a little bit more, she will web up inside of this tunnel rather than behind it, but she's still a little bit on the smaller side. So currently she's happy just to squeeze back down there. If you've got any questions about how to keep these tarantulas and how to keep them happy and healthy, let me know. I will answer your questions best I can. If I don't know the answer, I will be pointing you in the right direction for sure though. So this mound of dirt hides my Asian forest scorpion, Zoidberg. He doesn't come out during the day, hardly ever. Again, usually out at night, kind of clipping around. You can hear him. It's a little bit of a chilling sound. He had a plant in this enclosure, and it was absolutely beautiful, covered the whole back. It was growing around the sides. But he decided to go down into his burrow and cut all of the roots. So it died. So what we're left with is a fairly barren enclosure, but it's suiting his needs at the moment. As he grows, he's going to be moving into a 3-foot wooden terrarium, which we're going to make fully bioactive for him, so that we can kind of pop him in and leave him to it, and just throw in some food for him from time to time. It's actually going to be my current corn snake enclosure, so Ziggy is in there at the moment, so you'll see his enclosure in just a minute. But that's what Zoidberg is going to be moving into, so he'll have lots of space, and I'm hopefully going to make it look really cool for him. So, last of the inverts. This is where I keep my little African land snails. I say little, they're currently babies, so at some point they'll be giant, but not just yet. They are in this faunarium currently, which is controlled by their little stat down here, because they have a heat mat just underneath, sitting on the foam there. But yeah, that's what they're in currently. I'm just going to pop the lid off and show you the snails if I can. They won't be out at the moment, but you can see their shells. So here it is. Forgive the and chewed on cucumber. I don't feed them until the evening. It's currently mid-afternoon. So that's their food from last night. So they usually hide either in this plant pot or under here. There you go, you can see two of them down there. And let's have a look. And one of them is down there as well. The big boy is in the plant pot currently, which is where he likes to hang out. It's a little bit larger than the others. If any of you have watched for a while, that's Sheldon. On the advice of someone that let me know these animals are actually fairly social, I got him 3 little buddies, and they're currently hanging out in here. Obviously they're going to get quite large, so as they grow they'll definitely be moving into a larger aquarium style enclosure. Now we are moving on to snakes. So we're going to kick off with the corn snakes, first being Ziggy, who is my 3-year-old diffused corn snake. He is currently just chilling out in his hide over there. He might pop his head out in the moment so we can see him. But let me just talk a little bit about his enclosure. So this is a 3-foot black pteropod. As far as enclosures go, they're kind of cheap and cheerful. They do the job. They're usually fairly slim. They're not very tall. They don't have much depth. So for an in-between enclosure, absolutely spot on, but definitely not one of what I want to be keeping Ziggy in for his lifetime. So as I said, Ziggy is 3 currently. This year, when he turns 4, I'd like to have him in a lovely 4-foot enclosure with some extra height and some extra depth, so I can fill it with branches and he can climb to his heart's content. He's just popped his little nose out to say hello, so it would be rude not to. That's little Ziggy down there. He's a bit of a shy guy, but he's very sweet. As with all my snakes, I do a weekly series called the Weekly Histories. In each week, I will pick an individual snake and talk about them, how I got them, how old they are, what they need, everything like that. So if you did want to see any of the snakes in more detail, just check out that series. 3 more episodes and it's over, so you can always go back and rewatch them. If you've got any questions, either ask on this video or the individual videos. Ziggy has a lignocell substrate, which is really soft, it's easy to burrow in. It's not spiky like aspen is, and it doesn't have any dust in it. That was one big thing I didn't like about aspen. It's just so dusty, especially the one I was getting. So I bulk buy lignocell now for my colubrids, and they really like it. So they make great little burrows and tunnels. Yeah, so it's good. Ziggy's got a hide over here, which he's in currently. Another Exoterra hide down at that end under his heat source. And he's got his LED lighting running along the back there. So before I show you the actual snake that lives in this enclosure, I want to show you the enclosure itself. This is a 3-foot Viv Exotic Reptiview. As you can see, the sides and the front are glass panels, as is the top. It also has a glass panel in the base which allows for a heat mat to be inserted without it having to be inside the enclosure. So it's a really great little enclosure, but as you can see, not very tall. So same as Ziggy, this corn snake Yuki will be moving into a 4-foot enclosure this year as well. But let me show you Yuki, because she's absolutely adorable. So this is Yuki's enclosure inside. She's got her hides over here, little skull to hide in as well, and another hide from Swell Reptiles over here, along with her water bowl. She's got a lot of foliage to kind of hide amongst, which is what she's doing at the moment. No, Yuki, don't hide from me. She's a bit sleepy at the moment, so I've just woken her up, which I don't think she's all that pleased about. You can just see her tail going through there, and her head is emerging over here somewhere. Let's have a look. There she is, with lignocell on her nose. Isn't that a picture? Hi, Yuki. Yuki is a 2-year-old snowcorn. She's absolutely stunning. She's growing like a weed, so the sooner she gets into a larger enclosure the better, because I want to keep her fit and healthy by giving her lots of space to climb. So same as us, when snakes exercise they develop their muscles properly, and they gain weight steadily rather than becoming overweight quickly. So while Yuki's in here and she's still growing, she's doing great, but the sooner I get her in an enclosure with lots of climbing space, the better. But there she is. I can't get over how silly she looks right now with that lignocell on her head. Well, let's move on to the next corn snake. Next up is Indy. he is my youngest corn snake, my smallest corn snake, and I hate to say it, but actually probably the cutest. Only because he's so little though. Other than that, they're all equally lovely. Indy likes to hang out in his treehouse up here, so you may just be seeing his nose today. There he is. You can just about see him. Indy is a year-old platinum corn snake, so you can see the difference in size between someone so tiny and then another year of growth and you get Yuki size. He, as I said, a platinum corn snake. He lives currently in this 2-foot Viv Exotic. Do forgive the reflection on the glass there. It's quite hard to film in here. There we go, it's a bit easier. Now you can just see Luna's tank in the background there. Like my other corns, Indy has a lignocell substrate, which is great for burrowing, especially for such a little guy, because it gives him this whole other world of fun really. He gets to climb, he gets to burrow, he gets to bask, everything really. So he's got his hides down on the floor, one over here and one over on that side, just behind the vine there. He's got vines to climb up, and he's got his little tree house over here, which he absolutely adores. This is a 2-foot Viv Exotic. As I mentioned, it's the same size as my Viper Gecko enclosure. Now, as Indy's still so small, this will be his enclosure for a little while. It would be pointless to move him into a 4-foot enclosure because it would put back all the work I've done with getting him comfortable with being handled. Currently, when I want to get him out, it's not difficult. I can find him quite quickly, even though he's got lots of hiding spots. And I can get him out quite quickly, and he's doing really well. If I were to put him in a 4-foot enclosure at this size, it would be quite difficult to find him. So selfish as it may be, I do like all my snakes to be as tame as possible. So I will keep him in the smaller enclosure until he's just a little bit bigger, and then he'll move up into one of the others. So staying on the theme of colubrids, this is my king snake enclosure. So Nacho is a Mexican black king snake, and he lives in this 3-foot Monkfield terrarium. Similar to the Viv Exotic Reptile, it has this glass lid and a glass panel along the front, so it's nice for viewing. Again, though not very tall, so for a young snake it's okay, but I'd definitely like him to be moving up into a 4-foot enclosure this year to really build up that strength to grow up nice and strong. Now, Nacho also has a lignocell substrate, so he likes to burrow and dig as well, which is great. He's got his hide here, one in the middle, one at the other end, a nice deep water bowl, seeing as he likes to flip them over whenever he can. That one makes his life a little bit harder. He's got another skull here which he can hide inside, and some cork, which is great for helping to shed, and also provides another little hiding spot. Now, Nacho has so many hiding spots, I'm not actually quite sure where he is at the moment, so I'm going to have a little rummage around and see if I can find him. So I was just having a little rummage around through the lignocell, and out popped Nacho. Sorry, I know it's a little dark to see him in here. Let me just try to angle the lights a little. There he is. And there's the rest of him. So you can see he really likes to tunnel in this lignocell, and it's so perfect for it because they can just keep moving through and through and through, and it doesn't really compact. So they can tunnel to their heart's content. I'm just going to pop that lid back. Nacho is about 2 years old as well. So this year, as he turns 3, will be the year I'd like to get him into a bigger enclosure, so he's got loads of climbing space. But currently, this is his little home. Right, I've just had to put my torch on to film this enclosure because it's a little bit dark up here. This is one of those situations that makes me want to scream a little bit, because I've tried to do something really right and it's all gone a little bit pear-shaped. So, as many of you know, when I got my little rainbow boa Skittles, I had her in a really useful box, or a tub, plastic tub, about half this size, and I thought that was fine for when she was growing, and you know, she's doing really well. But I thought I'd really wanted something that opened up on the front rather than open on the top. It makes life easier, means I can install proper lighting, proper heating. Using a heat mat's okay in this kind of situation, but it's just not ideal. So I was a little bit frustrated. I went to buy an enclosure through iStat. If you're here in the UK, you may know who iStat are. They make little thermostats. They just branched out to do some fiberglass enclosures in think it was June last year. So I paid my money, and they told me that it would be a couple of months until the enclosures were ready, which was absolutely fine. Skittles was still really small at that point in time. As I said, she was an enclosure half the size of this one. I waited and I waited. I heard nothing from them. Had to contact them countless times, and then after backwards and forwards, them delaying everything by a couple of weeks, eventually 6 weeks, eventually 3 months later, they refunded me, and the company went bust, which is a crying shame, and it's horrible to hear that. And I really do sympathise with them because I know how much they care. But at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, I wanted a new enclosure for my animal, and I didn't get one in time, and I didn't want to use a wooden enclosure for Skittles because they just don't hold the humidity as I need them to. So I got her a bigger plastic tub for the time being. As you can see, it's double the size. She's got both of her hides, her water bowl, some cork to hide in, some branches and vines to climb on. So really she's absolutely fine. But recently, what's really exciting is that I found a company called Vivtech who make plastic enclosures. So in about 4 weeks time, her new enclosure will be arriving. So I'll definitely do an update video then. But in the meantime, let's show you the little lady herself. See what kind of mood she's in today. There she is. She's an absolutely stunning little snake. She has a beautiful personality, and she's just awesome to keep. I'm going to leave her be because she's obviously trying to sleep, so let me just pop that on carefully. Sorry baby, you're going to have to readjust under there. Literally just plonk that on her like a hat. So, as with a few of the animals here, no, the enclosure is not finished, it's not ideal, it's not where I want her to be, but she's doing fine. Fine isn't good enough for me in the long run, so everything will be improving very soon. But in the meantime, this is her enclosure. It just shows that if you do want to use a plastic container, you can do a little bit extra with it. I've attached the vines at a few points here, so she's got some climbing space. And she's got this bendy branch in here as well. So there are things you can do to make it a bit more exciting for the animal. But, you know, the new enclosure is coming soon, so hopefully that will be lovely for her. Next up, I'm going to show you my boa constrictor enclosure. So here's Zeke. He's a BCI, or boa constrictor imperator. He is a big boy and the biggest snake that I currently own. Absolute love of my life, gentle giant through and through. As you can see, he is chunky. He's just eaten last week, but his rat is taking its time to go through. Boas have a very slow metabolism, so it takes a while. But Zeke is in this 4-foot enclosure. Now, before any of you kind of jump in and say it's way too small, trust me, I know. It is one of the most frustrating things going on in my life currently, because I could build him a custom enclosure right away, but we're waiting for a second room to be ready to use. As soon as it's ready, he'll be moving into it straight away. So aiming for the 3 months time, and Zeke will have a beautiful 8-foot enclosure. He's about 6 foot long, maybe 6.5 feet, so he's not colossal. He's not one of the biggest snakes in the world, but I'd love for him to be able to stretch out. I think keeping snakes in an enclosure that's not as long as them is just not great. It's definitely never something that I planned to do when getting Zeke. He came through to me as a rescue, so I want to provide him with the best life possible. Whilst he gets to come out whenever he wants to, all he has to do is kind of climb up the glass and out he comes. I want to make sure that when I'm not home, he's got as much space as he likes to kind of climb around and have a lovely thermal gradient, a UV basking spot, everything like that. So that's in the works for him. Currently, we've got him a nice big branch so he can climb at least, which is nice, get that big body off the ground. He's got his hide over there, and then he's currently sitting on top of his hide underneath his heat source, so he's just basking at the moment. I try and make his tank as lovely and green as possible. He's on a orchid bark substrate with a layer of cocoa fibre underneath, which holds that humidity without the ground being damp. So I know that a lot of you guys ask why I do that for my constrictors. I don't want them sitting in wet ground. You know, if they're in the wild, it's okay, they can move whenever they need to, but in captivity, if you've got them sitting on wet substrate, there's a good chance that scale rot's going to happen. So what I do is I put a layer of damp cocoa fibre on the floor first, and then the bark chips on top of that, so it's a slow release humidity. So each of the hides are nice and humid. The enclosure is fairly humid in general, but none of it's actually physically wet. So that's the way I like to do things. Zeke's water bowl is over on the right hand side there. Again, in a bigger enclosure, I'm going to get him a nice big pool so he can actually soak in it. He hasn't soaked for a while now, probably because he's actually too big for his bowl, so it's something he used to really enjoy doing when he was younger, so I'm aiming to get him back up to speed with that. Zeke is 6 years old, so he'll be 7 this November, and he's growing beautifully. I'm not sure what kind of size he will kind of max out at. I know he'll keep growing throughout his life, but he's growing quite rapidly at the moment, despite being fed every 3 weeks. But as I said, he's an absolutely gorgeous snake, and I can't talk enough about him. If you'd like to learn more about Zeke and kind of where he came from and his backstory, do go check out his weekly history video, where I talk kind of all about Zeke. So it's a good one. So let's talk pythons. This is actually my newest addition. This is Maya, my wormer python. So as you can see, there she is. Maya is also in a plastic rub for the time being, which is super frustrating, but she'll be moving into a lovely wooden vivarium as soon as possible. Maya's got a great feeding response, but she's super sweet being handled. Really, really lovely little snake. She's only about a year old, so she's got a lot of growing to do. I'm just going to try to keep her down in the enclosure because she desperately wants to come out. So I'll just show you quickly. She's got her water bowl, a hide there, some cork branches to hide under, and then her hide, which she's currently inside, and the skull, which she is moving through at the moment. Maya is also on Lignocell for the time being, partially due to the heat transfer being a lot better from the heat mat that she's sitting on, and also because she can burrow down into it and it's nice and soft for her. If you've got any questions about Maya or wormer pythons in general, do let me know in the comments below. Next up is Mopani, my little jungle carpet python. There you can see her. She's super curious and she really likes the camera, so she's usually wanting to come and have a look. Mopani is in a 3-foot Viv Exotic. It's the Viva Plus, so it's got a little bit more height to it, which is better because, as you can see, she likes to sit up there. Now, when Zeke gets his 8-foot enclosure, Mopani will be moving into that 4-foot arboreal. So it's 4 foot wide and about 4 foot high. So she'll have way more space to climb. We're going to bulk it out with loads of branches, loads of lianas, and lots of vines. And she will get a UV basking spot as well. Currently Mopani has LEDs and the white python ceramic, same as the majority of my snakes here. She's got a little Exoterra hide over that side, and she has another hide in those bushes there, but it's really hidden, just the way she likes it really. When she wants to go hang out, she's got all that space to do it. Just going to show you a better view of Mopani so you can see her really well. She's an absolutely gorgeous snake. She shed 2 days ago, so she's showing her colours as bright as they go really. She is stunning. She's grown a hell of a lot since I've had her, and I think we're just going to see her grow and grow. I think she's going to be quite a big girl. But that is her current enclosure. I'll just show you it from the other side as well, because that reflection on the glass is making it difficult to see. So that is the other side of Mopani's enclosure. I know it's difficult to see in here with the window right there. It puts a lot of glare on all of the glass, so I do apologise for any reflections in the video of kind of stuff in the background or whatever. I know it's a bit of a pain. But yeah, so Mopani's other hide is just down there. It's just a Trixie corner rock hide. It's got a nice big space inside it. And she's got little bits of branches and vines and stones which help her to shed. And of course her water bowl down in the middle here. And that is the lovely, lovely Mopani. Moving swiftly on to royal pythons. So these are the last 3 snakes and the last animals that I'm going to be showing you today. If you've got any questions about royals, snakes in general, any of the animals you've seen, just drop them in the comments below and I will answer you as soon as possible. I'm usually pretty good at getting back to everyone, so if you do have burning questions, do let me know. So this is Pixel's enclosure. Pixel is a 2-year-old male royal python. He is an orange ghost pied with such a mouthful. He is a gorgeous little guy. But let me show you his enclosure first, and then I'll see if I can get a glimpse of him. Don't really want to wake him up too badly, but I'll see if I can get you a quick view. Pixel's got his water bowl here, his hide here underneath his ceramic. So that's his warm hide. Over this side he's got a lovely big branch to climb on and a cork hide down at the back there. So I like to use those cork hides for the cooler end. It's nice and natural, it helps them to shed, they retain humidity beautifully, and they're also quite large, so they're tight and the snake can go sit in whatever region they want to, whether it's at the front to feed, at the back where it's nice and cool and really snug. It just gives them lots of options. I think currently Pixel is in his warm hide. Yeah, he is. So let me just see if I can get a quick view of him. So yeah, you can just about see him there. He's absolutely gorgeous. He's got a lovely little white tail. He's got he's about mid-level white on him, so he's not high pied. He's about a mid. But he's absolutely gorgeous. If you want to see a full video of Pixel, again, check out his weekly histories. I know I'm pushing this on you. If I showed them as much as I'd like to in this video, it would be well over an hour long. Trying to keep it as short and quick as possible, because I know not many people want to sit through a 40-minute video. But we'll see. If you want to see more information about any of the snakes, those weekly histories are the way to go. The next of my royals is Haku. Haku is a 3-year-old white wedding royal python, female. She is an all-white pied snake. She has, I think, 3 dark scales. That's it. Other than that, she's pure white. And this is her enclosure. It is a 4-foot Viv Exotic. It is the Viva Plus, so it is deeper and taller than the normal ones. For a terrestrial tank, that is. She's got a Komodo rock hide over there. She's got her lovely big Exoterra water bowl. Then lots of climbing space. Royal pythons are kind of my ambassador snake. They need so much more than people are willing to give them in a lot of situations. To have strong, healthy, muscular snakes that don't have fatty liver problems or fat deposit buildup, you really want to give them that space to climb. All I'm talking about here is a branch. Not hard to come by, not hard to find, super easy to buy online, especially here in the UK. I can't really speak for other countries. I know that in other parts of the world you may have difficulties finding stuff, but yeah, it really helps to keep these snakes nice and strong. I know I talk about Haku in her weekly history video, but I always like to touch on this with royal pythons. It is kind of pushed on people that they should live in these small dark spaces where they are super kind of tucked away. If that's what you want to do, then kind of who am I to say no? But I found that a lot of misinformation in the reptile community stems from these animals. My snakes do fine in a 4-foot enclosure. This is the absolute bare minimum size I would ever give to them. I like to make sure they have tight hides where they can tuck up safe, nice and snug. Lots of tunnels to go through to make sure that they can stay out of view if they want to. But what I've actually found is that my snakes are ridiculously friendly. They have no issues with feeding. They come out whenever they want to, and they're doing really well. So it just shows they can do beautifully well in larger enclosures. And this enclosure, as far as I'm concerned, is certainly not a large enclosure. As I said, this is the absolute bare minimum I would keep a royal python in as an adult. For me, preferably a 6-foot enclosure would be better. Anyway, enough ranting. I know I go on and on and on about royal pythons, but it really is one of my big bugbears. Let me show you Haku, because that will put a positive spin on things, so to speak. She's absolutely gorgeous. So Haku is currently just chilling out under her little log here. There she is. Let me just get in there. So as you can see, she is pretty much completely white. She's a beautiful snake. She does hold the spider gene, which means she has some neurological issues, but with her being really muscular and very strong, she's doing really well and has no issue with feeding, which is always the main concern. But yeah, that is Haku's enclosure. And next up I'll show you Aki's. who is going to be the last animal of the day. Okay, so right next to Haku's enclosure here is Aki, and this is her setup. It's very similar to Haku's. She has the cork panels over here, which she likes to hide under, a lot of foliage, and then some big branches to climb on. Aki's a little bit bigger than Haku. Haku's caught up really quickly, despite there being a year difference in them. Aki was a little bit stunted when I got her, so she grows a bit slower. Just fine, she's taking her time. Haku, on the other hand, is kind of powering along and she's growing really quickly, which is great to see in an animal that has those issues with development, so she's doing really well. Aki, same as Zeke and Haku and Pixel and Mopani, is on an orchid bark substrate with that layer of EcoF underneath. Like I mentioned when I was talking about Zeke's, it's so that they don't have to sit on kind of a damp substrate. Instead, I can just spray down the tank and mist it. That evaporates quickly, but the moisture is held in that cocoa husk fibre underneath, which is super. So like I said, Aki's got these cork flats here to hide under. No matter what hide I've given her on her cooler end, she always chooses to hide underneath the bark. So actually what we did, rather than try and put in something else for her, it's just got her a huge piece of bark. So she's got the two here. Sometimes she likes to hide back there. Rest of the time she's either under here or under this one at the front. Currently she's sitting over in her warm hide, so I'm just going to pop over to that side and we'll check her out. So this is the other side of Aki's enclosure, a little bit barren by comparison. It's very bushy and vibrant over there, and then a little bit barren over here. That's purely so I can feed her. She's got quite the strike on her. I don't want her getting a mouthful of plastic leaf, so I tend to leave this area in front of her hide a little bit open, but then with a little bit of green around it as well. Aki's got a nice big water bowl over here. She's got her ceramic heater up here, and then her LED lighting running across the back. Aki is currently sitting in this hide, so I'm just going to see if we can lift it up a little so you can see her. There she is. Again, I'm not going to pull her out because she's sleeping and I don't think it's fair. But if you want to see more of Aki, there are loads of videos on my channel about her. Her weekly history video hasn't come up just yet, but keep your eyes peeled and it'll be with you in a couple of weeks' time. Aki is 5 years old. This year she'll be 6. We share a birthday, which is kind of cute. She's a lovely snake. Absolutely beautiful pastel royal python. The yellows in her are stunning. She's got a lot of golds running through. She's an absolutely wonderful snake. But this is her full enclosure, as you can see. Nice and cluttered down that end, so a lovely royal python can hide but also climb and get some great enrichment at the same time. Now that's it for the reptile room video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed already and you enjoyed the video, please hit subscribe. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, let me know why. Always more than happy to hear any comments people have. It's always really great to see people chatting in the comments as well, so please feel free to ask each other questions and have a good conversation down there. Anyone that wants more information on any of the enclosures that you've seen, any of the animals that you've seen, drop me a comment below. I do tend to reply either straight away or within the day, so you won't be waiting too long for an answer. But anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed the video, and I will catch up with you all soon.